Hey guys, this is FluteGirl2406 here, giving you my first Thomas & Friends review. A couple of weeks ago, I asked my followers on Twitter if I should do a review on Tale of the Brave, and the final results showed 81% yes and 19% no. Then I thought about asking my followers their current reviews on the film, since it came out 2 years ago.
2 years? That's a very long time.
And from what I gathered, there were a lot of mixed reviews. Some were good reviews and some were not so good reviews. So I guess we should take a look at the 2014 Thomas & Friends special Tale of the Brave.
Tale of the Brave.
So what's the story? The story is Thomas discovers a giant footprint in the clay pits during a rainstorm and goes to tell Percy about it. Percy takes caution over this and starts to believe there's a monster on Sodor. Funny thing is, this film was originally called Monster of Sodor. As Percy's fear grows more and more, in which he starts seeing things and mistaking them for a monster, James makes fun of him for it while Gator tells him the true meaning of bravery. After an accident with the flying kipper, as well as Percy and Gator laughing at him, James decides to take revenge and scare Percy with the scrap metal monster. Percy becomes frightened and tries to tell the other engines, but nobody, not even Thomas, believes him, which hurts Percy. Percy later learns that Gator is leaving Sodor that evening and gets the idea that the only way he can show that he is brave is to leave Sodor. However, Gator states that running away is not very brave, so Percy decides to go to the clay pits, and James, who was looking for Percy, finds him to try and apologize, but an argument happens, which leads to James showing off and accidentally causing a landslide. Percy saves James, but gets swept away by the landslide and rescued by Marion. Later, Percy gets fixed and James and Thomas apologize, and the engines go to the docks to say goodbye to Gator. Okay, so this is not an entirely bad story, and the moral is actually really good. However, there is a problem with the balance. The first half of the movie is a bit slow paced, with Percy running around the island being afraid, and then the second half picks up the pace with several suspenseful scenes. However, what I noticed with almost every special with Andrew Brenner is that he includes a prologue and backstory. The prologue, though a bit long, shows how Thomas first saw the giant footprints at the clay pits. Andrew Brenner does like to make references to past stories, including the Railway series, and I feel like he did so here with the book Thomas and the Twins, in which Thomas works at the clay pits due to a damaged bridge on his branch line. The backstory is also shown how Gator has a fear of heights, in the 2D animation style by Arc Productions. It's always good to show a bit of a backstory to a character to get to know their history and how they gained their current personality. The climax is kind of mixed. There's a climatic scene where Thomas and Cranky try to stop the ship, but discover that Percy wasn't on it because Cranky unloaded him half an hour ago. This scene was kind of pointless, but at the same time, the audience and Thomas didn't know this, which is why it was so suspenseful. It's understandable why the scene was shown because it really shows that Thomas cares for Percy and doesn't want him to leave. However, the climax scene, as well as the last 10 minutes of the film, is the best part. The scene with the landslide is so well directed and suspenseful. I could care less even if it was a bit over the top. I think it's one of the most suspenseful and dramatic scenes in Thomas' history, and it reminds me of Fergus rescuing Bill and Ben from the rock slide. This scene really brings out Percy's courageous and heroic character. One of my favorite scenes is at the end where Percy says goodbye to Gator. I think we can all relate to this ending because we all have friends who live far away. It's very sad when we have to say goodbye to them. Percy's line,
I guess you have to be brave to say goodbye to someone too,
is what really makes me love Percy even more. The scene was very emotional and heartwarming, and I honestly don't know how else they would write it. The overall story definitely shows a dynamic trio, in which the three main characters are Thomas, the deuteragonist, James, the antagonist, and Percy, the protagonist. This is a step up compared to King of the Railway, in which there are several subplots, but in this case, there are several main characters. I actually kinda like this use of character trio, but it does leave out characters out of the spotlight, like Edward, who only gets one line, and Toby, who doesn't appear at all. Speaking of characters, this is the first time since Day of the Diesel since we've had a character other than Thomas as the main protagonist, and this is the second time Percy is the main protagonist. I feel like it was imperative to develop Percy's character even more, especially after this episode. However, this is where it leads to some problems with Percy's character. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's no problem with showing character development, especially when it's strongly needed, but the way it was told was a bit over the top. There's a scene where Percy is traveling through the fog and he sees Gator coming towards him. Percy thinks it's a monster and he tries to run the other way. The problem here is that Gator's on one line and Percy's on the other, plus Gator's going super slow. If it was like Percy runs away, where Gordon was on the same line as Percy and he was coming in very fast, then I would be extremely terrified. Here, Percy is just letting the fear of the unknown take over him and leads to some over-the-top fearfulness. However, this is where I want to see character development, and it's definitely shown in the climax. Percy finally realizes that he must be brave and rescues James. Again, character development is what I absolutely love, and it's definitely shown later on. Percy's wisdom has grown so much stronger in the last 10 minutes of the film than in the last 10 years. He can still be silly at times and not think twice, but his character development was what really stood out for this special. Thomas's character is kind of in the middle. I'm kind of happy he doesn't take the lead role for once. He definitely has his original personality of curiosity, and he is acting like the big brother to Percy. But it's just really sad that he made the mistake of not believing Percy, and feels guilty about it. This strain in friendship has happened before in the episode Best Friends, where Thomas doesn't tell Percy about him pulling the brass band, but he makes up for it in the end. The same happens here, and you just really feel sorry for Thomas because he didn't really mean to hurt his friend. I feel like he should have at least stood up for Percy, but still, Thomas's split character is why I think he's the deuteragonist of the special. James, on the other hand, though he is the main antagonist, is often too mean. James tries to be superior to Percy by making fun of his fear, but when he gets embarrassed, his jealousy takes over and he tries to get revenge for it. As much as Andrew Brenner wants to show James' boastful side, I don't think James is mean enough to go such lengths and take advantage of a character like that. I mean, he has done so in Percy and the Signal and Trust Thomas, but in those episodes, he just lied. Here, James takes action to take revenge on Percy by scaring him with a scrap monster and continuously making fun of Percy's fear even after he disappears. However, what makes up for it is near the end, where James realizes his mistake and apologizes to Percy. Another really good showing of character development there. I feel like James is more than just a mean character, and I really do hope the writers show his good side soon. Gator, voiced by Clyde Mantle, was definitely the best new character of the special. He had a good backstory about his fear of heights. He gave good advice and acted like the fatherly figure, or the big brother to Percy. The relationship between those two was a bit awkward at times, but it definitely showed a bonding that was just besides Percy and Thomas. It was kind of sad to see him go, but at least he sees Percy again and a long-lost friend. I also liked the design of Gator, which was based on the Columbian Steam locomotive. I also like how he has a similar backstory to Duck's name, in which it's a nickname for a certain physical appearance. I think the only problem I have is that even though Gator's real name is Gerald, his nameplate says Gator. Overall, he was definitely the best new character of the special. Marion, voiced by Olivia Colman, was also a good character and stands out as the second best character. I wish she was shown more in the movie because I really loved her bubbly personality and the fact that she really has a love for digging. I'm glad that her character actually does get some more spotlight in future episodes, and especially Sodor's Legend of the Lost Treasure. I really loved Marion and her design, though I'm not sure how her crew was able to drive her without any front windows. Timothy, voiced by Tim Whitnell, was okay. But like Marion, I wish he got more spotlight in the special because he only appears for about 18 minutes and is only seen once near the end. Kinda disappointing, but thankfully we see more of his character in later seasons. His character here is more like Edward and Boko, where he's in charge and he has to keep Bill and Ben in order. Kinda do wish it was Edward who took over Timothy's role in the special, but then again, Edward needs to be working on this branch line rather than at the clay pits. Reg, also voiced by Tim Whitnell, was a big disappointment. He only appeared for 38 seconds. I wish they showed him a lot more, especially when building the scrap monster. In fact, in the Golden Book, James is not frightened by a scrap monster, but more of a small piece of scrap that looks like a creature. And in one illustration, Reg is putting the scrap monster onto James' train. I really would have loved to see that. Overall, there's not much to say good about this character, except for the fact that he likes his job. though his appearance was really pointless and a huge letdown. However, what doesn't let me down is the music and the animation. I mean, there are a couple of animation flops here and there, but for a second film animated by ARC Productions, it's really not bad. There are so many scenes where they really show not only improvement in animation, but also the lighting, especially the shot of Gator passing by a pond. I also like how ARC uses the season of autumn as a setting. I can't remember the last time we had an episode or special featuring autumn. There's also a showing of a rainstorm, and I believe the last time we saw that was in Splish Splash Splash. ARC Productions did a fantastic job with not only the setting, but also the lighting. Rendering could have been better, but for a second film, they've definitely improved. I also really love the themes that are played at the beginning and end of the movie. It's really sweet and heartwarming. The songs are decent? Well, Monsters Everywhere is definitely a song I listen to during Halloween, cause monsters are meh. But it also reminds me of the song Heffalumps and Woozles from Winnie the Pooh and the Pink Elephant Parade from Dumbo. Let's Be Brave just has a weird placement because the ending is heartwarming and then suddenly la 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 let's be brave. The song doesn't have a bad moral and I'm sure it'll get kids bouncing up and down because of the catchy lyrics, but it's just in a weird spot in the film and the song lyrics are repetitive. However, the song that stood out to me the most was Our Tale the Brave. Oh my goodness, do I love this song. It's so heartwarming that I get a bit emotional almost every time I listen to it. And during the song, there's an instrumental sequence of Percy showing Gator that he doesn't have to be afraid. This is a good example of the show don't tell sequence. It's really heartwarming and the shots are just amazing. So what are my final thoughts on this film? Well, from a critic point, despite the film's flaws with the story and some of its characters, it's not entirely the best Thomas film. But personally, I think it's a great film, and actually one of my favorites. It's heartwarming, it has great character growth and development, shows improvement on animation, and really shows what it truly means to be brave. On that note, thank you all for watching my review. Leave a comment on your thoughts on the review and the film in the comment section below, and hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more of these reviews. This is FluteGirl2406 signing off.